Hey, this is Kevin Winston with Digital LA. We are very excited to be part of Comic-Con at Home, the very first one, with a awesome lineup of speakers who are here to talk about our panel topic, which is virtual fandom, how you adapt in a pandemic. We have awesome speakers here today who have each adapted during the pandemic as far as what they do. So we're going to introduce everybody in just a second and have everyone tell you what they've done differently in pandemic. It's been interesting like time period, several months since March when it all happened, and but that doesn't stop the passion and the power of Comic-Con fans and pop culture fans, superhero fans, fantasy, Star Wars, Disney, everything, and expressing that through online tools that are typically digital. So a lot of organizations, companies, and our speakers have been doing things like Zoom panels, Instagram lives, and other things to adapt to the pandemic to continue to connect with fans and engage, because you can't keep superheroes down. So I'm going to do introductions now. I'll start off quickly. I'm Kevin Winston, founder of Digital LA. We do typically offline panels and events in the LA area primarily, and we usually do a big party at SDCC, like a networking thing on the Saturday of SDCC. And we've adapted, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And something fun that's happened in the past week or in the past pandemic is I've been doing a lot of going to drive-in movie theaters. I've been to 4 drive-in movies because that's the only way to actually see movies, basically during a pandemic, if you want to have a theatrical experience, of course, in addition to like streaming things. But yeah, so going to drive-in movie theaters has been lots of fun. There's a Mission Tiki one about an hour from Los Angeles where I am, and that's been fun. So that's me. Phil, do you want to go next? Just name what you do briefly and something different or fun that you've been doing in pandemic.
Hey there, I'm Phil Lamar. I'm an actor, and I'm also primarily the last few years been doing more voice acting than on-camera stuff, which during the pandemic has been a godsend, because cartoons are the one area of show business that did not grind to a halt. Everybody just took their drawing pads and went home and then mailed in their work. So I've continued to record cartoons here from my house. Now, the one thing I'm doing differently during the pandemic that I wasn't doing before, wearing a mask. Now, this is different on a number of levels, because as an actor, like from the moment I first started coming up, I've lived in virtual fear of working at a theme park and being one of the guys in the heads. So you can't pay me to put on a mask until now.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Phil. And next up, Dan.
Hey, how are you? My name is Dan Frega, aka Couch Doodles. I am the founder of Incredible Comics and Picture Picture. I storyboarded the Doom Patrol series for HBO Max, also directed the Ricky Gervais show for HBO. Currently drawing comic books, and the thing that I've done a lot different now since before the pandemic is a lot of cooking. I miss a lot of my favorite foods, so I've figured out a way to make them myself.
Nice. What's your favorite food that you've been making yourself?
Stuff with fish.
Nice.
I've created all kinds of things. I created this new thing that I call sriracha mole. It's like guacamole except really spicy. Things like that. Experimental stuff that I usually find at a sushi place, but I make it myself.
That sounds delicious. Thanks, Dan. Sarah.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am Sarah Catcher, also known as That Princess Girl on the internet. And what part of my life hasn't changed during quarantine? I had to rock the Rapunzel look for this panel because she is the quarantine queen. The day things started to lock down, I made a whole whiteboard of things that we could work on, projects around the house, things that we could be doing online. We didn't do all of them, but we did some of them. And one thing that I did is I am at Disneyland all the time usually. And I created a virtual Disneyland experience at home for me and my best friend, where we used VR 360 headsets and room sprays and water spritzing at each other to create an attractions experience. And that was for our friendiversary. So I also managed to get a bunch of my friends to drive by and do a recreation of the Soundsational parade live for us in the street with social distancing. And some of them were in masks. We were like, everyone was very safe, but we had the music playing. We had every unit represented, and that kind of stuff.
I saw the video for that. That was awesome. You had a dozen of your friends driving cars in costumes like Peter Pan or whatever. Jump out of the cars.
It helps when your
say
friends
hi,
are all
and then
hardcore
drive
cosplayers.
Awesome. Very cool.
But
Next
yeah,
up,
there was choreography.
yeah, very cool. Thank you. Renee with AR Wall.
What's up, Kevin? Thanks for having me. It's really good to be here with everyone. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of AR Wall, and we're one of those companies that has been changing the industry with virtual production and with large-scale XR experientials. Most notably, the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood, sign that's ever do that stuff. So I've been doing quite a bit of stuff in the fandom and superhero space. In actuality, there's a client in Northern California that is looking at doing a superhero themed venue. Very similar to like a all year round Comic-Con type of thing, actually. And we've been tasked to turn you, the visitor, into a superhero when you come in. So you'll design your avatar, you'll get different props and powers and that type of stuff. The interesting thing that happened was, of course, the pandemic. They were meant to open this summer. And so what we're doing now is creating an online version of this virtual attraction. So instead of going to the physical location, you'd be creating your avatar and doing all your, favorites and recommendations and all that type of stuff online. And they're actually visiting an online version of that virtual attraction. Or that physical attraction, I mean. That's a pretty new thing, as you might imagine. Weren't getting asked to do that type of stuff prior to the crisis. So we're expecting this product, which is called AR Wall Interactive, to become really big after, I guess, in the recovery of the crisis. The interesting thing is that we actually did launch this prior to the crisis. We had the debut of this technology at CES, and we actually won the Dreamland XR Best AR Experience Prize at CES, and that was for a touchless interactive video walls and that type of stuff. So that was prior to the crisis. Just happened to be really, really lucky and seeing a huge amount of demand for that type of thing now. So that's why I'm here. I should also mention that prior to forming
Can you do something fun? Can you do something fun that happened in the past week?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Something fun you're doing in quarantine.
Well, okay, just to give you an idea, prior to quarantine, actually in 2019, I did 40 promotional events. So I was traveling everywhere. I traveled all around the country, everything like that. That ground to a halt, as you can imagine, in mid-March. So I'm stuck at home. I'm not the type of person that likes to be stuck at home. But the positive is I'm doing a tremendous amount of cooking. My girlfriend and I are very into the sourdough game. So yeah, willing to go toe to toe with your crumb. If you happen to have any screenshots, definitely taking an interest in sourdough. So that's what I've been doing different.
Awesome. So also cooking, like Dan. Maybe we should do like a cooking panel next. Cooking, comics and cooking. Thank you. And Gert, who is joining us from the Netherlands.
Netherlands represent, baby. Yeah, me, I'm the Dutch friendly giant, and I didn't have many preparation like many of you did because I just heard about this call 5 minutes ago. But yeah, I work in customer service myself, and I got the great luck that we can do it from home right now. So the impact of Corona is not as big on me.
And can you tell us about what your role is in the Marvel, DC, and Everything group?
Yeah, that's what I do in my spare time. I'm an admin on Marvel, DC, and Everything Nerdy, and also the Avengers, and also a separate group, the Marvel Universe, that's also about 300K. So what we try to do since the Corona is basically give people a spot to just enjoy what they normally enjoy. to stay away from the corona and all that. But we do encourage people to post anything they want as long as they adhere by our rules.
Which
And
is
you have to have
it
those
has
rules
to
there.
relate to superhero dom, which is the point of this conversation. So let's get just jump right into it with the discussion. So again, we're talking about virtual fandom during pandemic. What have you done differently? So Renee, you've already given us a nice explanation of what you've done differently. So let's start with Phil. Phil, can you tell us what you've been doing differently in the pandemic to adapt? I noticed that on your social media, you've been posting about panels that you're on that are Zoom or virtual panels. And then I saw that you did an Instagram live stream. So can you tell us about some of your projects during pandemic?
Well, it's interesting because, obviously in the old world, we'd be off at conventions. I'd be traveling around the country. A couple of years ago, I even got to go to Okinawa, Japan, but none of that is happening. And a handful of the conventions that I was going to, go to physically have had virtual cons instead. MomoCon, I was supposed to go to in Atlanta in the spring, did that, and just like SDCC is now. Although I did have my heart set on finally being able to get into Kevin's party this year. Not gonna happen.
This is killing the party scene.
That's right. If everyone's found a way to replicate the parties at Comic-Con, let us know. So,
well, actually, I've replicated my not being able to find any of them or get into any of them.
Yeah,
funny.
it's real. They must be
Right?
too exclusive.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll
I can't find the Zoom link.
Maybe I'll organize a SEC Comic-Con party right after this panel later on tonight. You can go watch it. You'll enjoy it.
Renee and I can create a virtual narrative experience for it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Awesome. Cool. And then, Phil, have you been using other tools like Instagram Live and other things as well?
Well, yes. At the end of June, I did a online autograph signing, which is very new and different. But through Instagram Live and through a site called geeksign.net, they get all the orders, the names, and then on Instagram Live, I just signed everything on camera for the people who had sent in. So it was sort of like doing an autographing at a con, but put together in various stages. It was,
so they sent you like who the autograph goes to, and they saw you doing it live, and then they eventually get it in the mail later, right?
Exactly.
Wow, I've never even heard of that. That's super creative. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. So yeah, so that's how you do an autograph session in pandemic. So all right, that's super creative. Let's go to Dan next. Dan, can you tell us about some stuff you've done differently? You've done some live stream panels yourself, and you did a crowdfunder campaign or crowdfunding campaign.
I did. In fact, my family and I, we moved out here to Georgia to work on productions. I storyboard the show Legacies for CW. I also storyboard Doom Patrol. And mid-March, production just stopped. So I decided, why not boot up a YouTube show where I talk about comics. I interview people. I had Hellboy creator Mike Mignola on. I had Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC on. I have musical guests. I have directors come on. And in the midst of it all, I decided, hey, why not crowdfund a comic book? My background is being a comic book illustrator. I worked for Image, Marvel, and DC for 25 years. So I said, why not? If I'm not drawing, I need to be drawing. It's something I do. So I started up my old comic book, Black Flag, put it through an Indiegogo campaign, and the Indiegogo campaign was a big success. So now I'm drawing comic books and making YouTube shows, and I stream almost every night on my channel, Couch Doodles.
That's awesome. So when you say it was a big success, let's get into that. How much was the Indiegogo campaign for? What was your goal, and then how much did you actually achieve?
Well, my initial goal was $5,000. And in my head, I was hoping that we would make 50,000 by the end of 60 days. We made 54,000 in our first 24 hours.
Wow.
You know, by the end of the campaign, we were over 160,000.
That is amazing.
So we did
Congratulations.
great.
Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Yeah, muzzle
Thank you.
Very
tough.
nicely done.
Thank you.
And as part of that, you had different goals to encourage
Yeah.
people to
Yes.
donate, including one of them is that you would wear a bunny suit, which you're wearing, and
That's
another.
right.
So, can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, you know, with these campaigns, you initiate stretch goals. I had a stretch goal at 10,000 to improve the quality of the book. We went from saddle stitch to perfect binding. Then we added stickers, we added posters, and I put up a ridiculous stretch goal of 100,000 based off of the day I launched. I was on someone else's show, and they asked me, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel a little bit like Ralphie on Christmas morning, and waiting for that Red Ryder BB gun, you know, excited, not nervous, but excited." And they said, "Hey man, you need to have a pink bunny suit stretch goal." And I said, "Oh yeah, okay." I said, "If I get 100,000, I'll wear this bunny suit on every live stream until we put the book out." We hit 100,000, and this is what we call integrity. I got to do it. You know?
You said you do it as a stretch goal, and you're doing it, and you even
Yeah.
added bling, I guess.
The bling was we had all these additional goals. So at 115,000, I had to eat a pound of carrots. So I ate a pound of carrots on camera. At 150, I had to add bling to the bunny suit. And so when we hit 150, I went and got these gems, and I had to bedazzle it on live stream, and I bedazzled it myself, and here we are.
Amazing.
Do you have any idea of how much that motivated people to continue, like, with the crowdfunding?
Well, yeah, the one that went really fast, we went from 108 to 115 in 3 days, because I think people wanted to see me eat the pound of carrots.
So it works.
It does. You know, so there are little things that are in there, but now I've live streamed so much in this thing that, you know, one of the things that we have is at the end of the campaign, there's a giveaway, and some lucky contributor will get this suit. Like, we'll draw a number, and I will send them this suit, so they get it. But a lot of people have said, "No, you and the bunny suit are one now. You can't." Like, you know, it's like it's part of the thing now. I wanted to run from the bunny, but apparently, when I get rid of this bunny suit, I'm supposed to buy a new one.
Yeah, 2.0.
Yeah, 2.0. And I was thinking of getting some of that RIT dye. And then I can dye it whatever color I want. I was thinking maybe purple, you know? I'm a big fan.
It's the color that's the problem, right, Dan?
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, obviously, I got my Golden Girls shirt on.
Right.
No, it's just changing up the flavors. So eventually, I can have one of each color. You know, I'll have a green one, I'll have a red one, a purple one, an orange one.
You'll have the Power Rangers of bunny suit collection.
Yeah,
so that sounds fun.
And then I can take a picture in each, and then I can have the full rainbow when I'm all done.
You can do TikTok duets with yourself.
I could.
Nice. That's a great story, showing how you were able to both leverage your live stream that you did on YouTube and help actually promote the Indiegogo to help you make your book.
Yeah,
so that's super cool.
Like 90% entertainment, 10% QVC, you know, telethon. I'm glad you enjoyed this interview. Now check out my book, you know, that sort of thing.
Right. Do you think there'll be a pink bunny character appearing in the background of your Black Flag comic book?
You're gonna have to find out. My campaign is still in demand. So if anybody wants to get it, search for Black Flag on Indiegogo and see if the pink bunny shows up.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks, Dan. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit about how you started Disney at Home? You gave us a little bit of a hint of that beforehand during introductions.
Yeah, so the first day that the Disney parks closed down, I looked up. I am a former Disney cast member, a regularly attending annual pass holder. Disney runs in my veins. So I know that I am not alone. I know, Kevin, you go to Disneyland all the time. And this is an international panel, so I'm going to put it out there. A lot of people, I think, who don't live in Southern California or Orlando or near a Disney park around the world, to them, it might seem like odd that people are really freaking out, like, I need to go to Disneyland. It's like, no, you don't. It's like, that's a vacation. You don't need a vacation. But for people in Southern California, and I think it's probably similar in Orlando, Disneyland is part of our mental health programs. It's part of our fitness regimen. It's where we go to see our friends. So it was how New Yorkers kind of felt about Central Park being closed, but with less cute Disney background music. It was hugely disruptive to people's lives. Obviously, the entire pandemic has been that. But I looked up and I said, people are going to need a venue to experience Disney and be excited about Disney and get to talk about that without actually going to Disney, without any new rides opening, new events and things. So I said, let's dive into Disney history. And every day I sat down at 7 p.m., went live. My co-host, Neil, who's my creative partner, joined me for most of our episodes. We did at least like 70 live streams before going on hiatus due to the protests. We felt that it was not appropriate to sit and focus on Disney for that period and dove into activism. But until that point, we were just like, okay, we're going to provide mental health support to friends who maybe live home alone. We had a lot of thank yous from people who don't have roommates and felt like they were hanging out with us every single night and watching the same movies and creating a community space. And then we started having guests on. Everyone from Michael Giacchino came on to talk about Peter Pan, not a movie he worked on, just one of his personal favorite Disney films, to Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh, respectively, came on to talk about the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars movie, but Swampy came on to talk about The Love Bug because it's one of his favorites from childhood. So we kind of created this space where if you meet me at an event or something, I will probably just end up talking to you about Disney. And even if Disney isn't your main thing, suddenly like I'll see people who have no interest in Disney going like, oh, but like I love this one movie. And like then we'll talk about that for like an hour. That was our series. just that kind of enthusiasm for various Disney things. Oh, and we also had interactive events. I got some behind me. These paintings were done with Clauders on Instagram, came on and did a live painting lesson. We had, Carissa, one of the bartenders at Scum and Villainy, did live drink mixing demonstrations with us and we followed along. So it wasn't just a passive experience. There's a lot of commenting back and forth with our audience, but there was also a lot of encouragement to, follow along with what we were doing if we were doing immersive experiences.
Awesome. That's super cool. So you did Instagram Live. It was all Instagram Live, right?
Yes, because that is where my following base is. And I wish I had just said, okay, we're diving into Twitch because maybe we would have built an audience there. But I didn't know how long we were going to be doing it when I started. I said, okay, well, the people are on Instagram. That's where people know to find me.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. A lot of people had never really used Instagram Live before the pandemic, but then once DJ Nice did a big DJ set that first week in the pandemic, everyone's like, oh, that's what we should do an Instagram Live for. So yeah.
I was giving tutorials. Sorry, it glitched out. What'd you say?
Yeah, go ahead. You said
let me see if I have other. For me, it was just running that show every day helped give me structure, which I think a lot of people were struggling to find. So I became kind of a point of reference for a lot of people were asking me like, hey, how are you coping? What are you doing? And I was giving people information on how I had set all of that up and was like working with other influencers to try to encourage them. And a lot of friends who came on as guests on the show ended up starting their own live streams after that because they were like, it's so easy. Like I thought it was going to be a lot of work, but like, this is great. I can engage with people and hang out with them.
It's so much fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the increased engagement that's happened as a result of all of this has been really interesting too. It's had people who are not necessarily engaging all the time do so. So that's great.
But it's funny because the algorithms and like the time of day information that we were all working on prior to the pandemic went out the window. Like what is time?
Right.
When everybody is at home all the time, there is no when people are home from work. So basically, any time is a good time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. That's terrific. Let's have Renee. Can you talk a little bit about your superhero project that's going to be opening up? What's the user experience going to be like?
Absolutely. So one of the first things you have to understand is our parallax technology. So I'll actually display that for you right now. So this backdrop behind me is not a Zoom backdrop or anything like that. It's not green screen. It's actually our technology, our screen backdrop, virtual backdrop technology happening in real time here.
Shut up and
The
give
latency on this. I appreciate that. So we are actually launching a home version of this, which is what I'm showing off behind me. And to be clear, this is not like a static scene or anything like that. I have full control over everything that's happening here. I can even, this is our logo, AR wall. I can even switch to a different scene here and then have this ship fly right above me. No, that type of thing. So we're getting into some pretty crazy stuff over here at AR Wall. But what you can imagine is right now I'm showing it to you from a camera's perspective. So we shifting around and getting that parallax between this consistent spatial reality between me and the background. And this is, just to be clear, I'm showing this on my 75-inch consumer TV. It's a nice TV, but it's the type of thing that most people can get for like under $2,000 now. So that's what we see the next evolution of this technology being.
Man.
In the meantime, what we have developed and what we released at CES just prior to the crisis and won the Best AR Experience prize, to be clear, which is the top prize that we could win, was an interactive version of this technology. So not tracking a camera's perspective in this case, but literally tracking my face and my head. It's actually this point right here in between your eyes and the bridge of your nose. And you can imagine shifting back and forth with your head and actually seeing a window into the virtual environment with characters, environments, all sorts of different crazy stuff happening there. This scene that I'm actually showing right here was built for a Star Wars fan film. So we would, had our speeder bikes and we're flying through this scene, that type of stuff. Isn't that wild?
Wow.
Yeah. So what we're doing now is basically taking these types of environments and throwing them into physical spaces. I'm talking about 20 by 10 foot video wall. You come into the location, it scans you up, scans your body, scans your face, turns you into an avatar. Then you're designing the way that your superhero looks. Everything from the costume to the body to the props. Maybe you've got a little a sidekick that's flying around you or something like that. So that's the kind of stuff that we're getting into. Of course, the problem being the pandemic has shut down theme parks and arcades and that type of stuff, and this type of venues that we're working with. So what we're working on right now is an online version of this. Basically, having the ability to visit these different locations, do all sorts of do everything that I just described, except in a virtual environment from your home. This gives you an idea of like how expansive these environments can get. Here I have this gigantic ocean, that type of thing. So you can imagine, let's say, okay, you're Aquaman or something like that. Your avatar dives, comes out of the water, does something, and then you're actually controlling the character, meaning you're puppeteering the character, interacting with other virtual characters, that type of thing. Whether it's just your face or your body or whatever we end up coming out with, that's at the physical location. And at the virtual location, we're having the same thing. So using your camera right here to control your face, to talk to people, everything like that. And it's your superhero avatar doing this. So that's the new thing that's happening, is social XR and moving all these types of physical attractions into the virtual space. So just to be clear, I'm talking about making a digital clone of the physical location, putting it up on a screen or on your device, whether it's VR, mobile, desktop, doesn't matter. It's going to be the type of thing that everyone can join. So when you're at the physical location and you're looking at, let's say, like the main lobby of the location, you'll actually see the people who are online visiting that location and their avatars and be able to interact with them, and they'll see that you're at the physical location. So it's a really interesting blurring of physical and virtual. And to be clear, this is really unusual because there's no headsets involved. And I think that that's one of the fundamental shifts that's happening in immersive right now is everybody's got to get off the headsets, because it's great when you're at home and you own one and you're the only one that's going to be using it conceivably. But out of home, location-based VR, it's having a big problem right now. So we're stepping in here with this technology to actually take this screen off your face, throw it up onto the wall, and you're basically getting all the functionality that you would get from a VR headset with our technology. So that's AR wall. That's what we're up to in the superhero space. So trying to blur that line. And just to be clear, my background is as a filmmaker. I've directed 350 commercial short films and pilots prior to this. My claim to fame for people that are really, really nerdy is Real Ultimate Power, the official ninja movie, which is, I know it has a ridiculous name, but I came out with that 19 years ago. It's my first major project. And so I am a nerd through and through. And jumping into this world has been really, really exciting for me.
Awesome. Well, super cool. Thanks for showing that to us. I
course.
thought that was a virtual background at first, but then you showed us it's just a huge screen behind you, so you could see the movement around.
It's like a holodeck. It's like a holodeck meets Ready Player One, like smashed together. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for showing that to us, Renee. Gert, can you tell us about your Facebook groups? You have 3 Marvel, DC, Avengers, superhero themed Facebook groups that you've been running over the course of, for a while. Over the course of the quarantine pandemic, what's been done differently? So, for example, I know that for the 1-year anniversary of Avengers Endgame, the Russo brothers did a live tweet on Twitter where they had everyone kind of like watch it at home, starting at the same time on whatever device they had, and they tweeted along. Did you mention that or talk about that, or how did you engage people over the course of the pandemic?
We try to get as much as live things we can into the group, but it depends on, we have different time tables because our groups are international. So myself, I miss a lot of those things because they're in America and I'm sleeping. But we have a team that's worldwide. So anytime we see something, we also go to comic writers who do live sessions on their own page. We share those in the group to connect the members to the artists. So we try to at times out as we can, especially when the Hollywood and all the TV shows are now in lockdown. So we have to fill that void any way we can.
Got it. So you were able to amplify other things that were happening in the online comic book superhero space through your platform. Cool. And then what else? So during pandemic and quarantine, there are no new movies coming out. Like Black Widow was gonna come out. Wonder Woman was gonna come out.
It's been the longest hiatus in an MCU movie since whenever, you know.
Yeah.
So we are feeling that, and people are getting restless. So we try to fill it up with all kinds of neat things like what if.
Okay. What's an example?
But one time story holes, plot holes that are in there. So we play to what we already know and what can be. And they're not disappointing us. We're still waiting for the new series. You know, the Winter Soldier, Falcon shows.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
And we got a little bit of tidbits there, and people are grasping for it. They want something to get that fix. It's almost like a drug.
Right. Well, thanks for supplying content for everybody amongst all your groups. When there's no new films coming out, there's still stuff we can talk about for the other things that are out and about. So let's talk about a little bit more about engagement. So we'll go back to Phil. Have you been able to engage more with fans during this time since we have more time at home?
No. Well,
okay.
I'm old. I like to engage with people in person. And that's not happening. I find, I mean, I'm spending probably the same amount of time online as I did before, because spending time with family, cooking, and working, you know, is taking up the extra time. I don't know. It's, I mean, other than the things like this, virtual panels, like active fan-based interactions. Plus, there's also been so much going on in the world that at times it feels weird to go, hey, let's ignore society's burning and talk about cartoon.
Right.
You know, I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
So, I mean, but it sort of comes in waves, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely a balance, as like Sarah was talking about earlier, how your Disney at Home kind of went on pause as far as, you know, fun content and went to activism. So, yeah.
I don't want to be the voice distracting. I mean,
Right.
I'm trying to help, but you
Right.
don't want to be the distraction if you care about these causes, which I do.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah. So it's a definite, you know, a balance between going full, you know, force with your content and then taking a minute to pause when certain things are happening in the world. So just being aware of what's happening and reflecting that in what you're doing in your online engagement, I think is definitely key. Awesome.
And
So
sometimes, you know, you just want to reach out to people when things are sort of down, just to give, you know, early on, I think there was a fan who reached out, and, you know, I recorded, I used to do the voice of Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern, for the Justice League cartoon. And I just, you know, did the Green Lantern oath in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil. And it was early on during the pandemic, and people started sending it around. It's like, yes, this is, I mean, it wasn't intended. It was intended for this one person as a pick-me-up, but people said, yes, this is helping me get through, you know, lockdown. I'm like, all right, fantastic. You know, if, you know, having that voice helps you feel better, you know, and I think, you know, Gert, you're talking about that, people going to these things that are familiar. I mean, that's why we go to fandoms. We know and we love them. And sometimes when the world is pushing against us, sometimes you lean into what's pushing, and sometimes you fall back into what's comfortable.
Or both in some
Right.
cases. I mean, I've seen a lot of shows like She-Ra trending during the pandemic because people had the moment to sit down and watch it, but also recognize shows like that in Avatar having freshly been re-added to Netflix.
Right.
Very inspiring through the revolution.
Yep.
Open arms.
awesome. So that comes to a related question: is what are you all personally, as far as fandom, superhero, pop culture stuff, getting into more during the pandemic? For myself, I just this weekend binge watched Watchmen on HBO. Normally over the weekend I'd be out doing all these things, but those things are not happening so much, so I had time to actually sit down and binge watch HBO Watchmen this weekend. So that's me. Anybody else have any examples?
Yeah, I've been on my show. I'm going to answer your previous question.
Sure.
Because on the live show we use something called StreamYard on YouTube, which will allow fans to come in and be part of the show. They get to be on screen, they get to talk and integrate with the chat. So that's something we're able to do. And what I found is a lot of these guys have mutual interests, but are teaching and educating you about things that you didn't know exist. So, for example, I'm a big Frank Miller fan. I love Frank Miller. I love Daredevil. I love Sin City, Elektra, Dark Knight, Ronin. And now I have this addiction to go back on eBay and buy every Frank Miller interview I can ever find going back to the 70s. So I've got all of these old industry trades like Comic Review, the Comic Book Journal, Comic Scene, Comics Interview, and I'm going through in chronological order his entire career and interviews. And it's just so cool to be able to see a talent like that full-fledged. I don't have a lot of time to watch TV. I have 4 kids, and the TV's kind of monopolized by them.
Got it. Anybody else want to share what they're personally getting into more as far as fandom during the pandemic?
Well, I fell into ride videos when I was preparing that Disneyland from home experience. And I've watched a ride through video from Disney here and there over the last however many years that I've been looking at things on YouTube. But I started making playlists of 360 attraction rides, traditional ones. I started finding like old videos for attractions that don't exist anymore and going through and like looking for the best quality versions. Original Fantasmic over at the current Fantasmic, trying to find like a high-res version of that. As a result of that, all of those searches, my YouTube feed completely transformed into all attractions videos. So now I've started writing, virtually writing attractions from the Efteling and all of these parks. Universal, I think Dubai has a Shrek attraction that I'd never even heard about. I watched that. There's I think it's Universal Shanghai has this noodle Sesame Street ride. It's literally
That's
about
awesome.
pasta. Like all the pasta goes to space and they have to go rescue it. It is one of the strangest rides I've ever seen, and the technology on it is beautiful. So I've watched this video like 3 or 4 times and then posted to Facebook. I was like, has anyone seen this?
That's awesome.
It's
I want to
something
ride the
never
noodle
thought I would
ride.
do.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, can you send me the link to the noodle ride? That sounds like fun.
I will send it to you right away. Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else want to share new stuff they've gotten into?
I've been watching a lot of classic sci-fi. Getting back into the original series of Star Trek. I don't know the first 5 episodes of Star Trek, the original series, recently, but it's more relevant now than it was then, for sure. And also The Matrix. I get, guys, this is a classic film now. I feel old just saying it, but yeah, The Matrix. I watched the 3 films. And
21 years ago. Holy crud.
I can
about
believe
that.
it.
Yeah.
Please don't say the number.
21.
Oh my gosh.
Renee, you have no cause to talk about the number. You snuck into it 20 years ago. I was grown.
I'm older than I seem. I take care of this.
Yeah, he made his movie. He made his movie
From
19
LA, we
years
take care
ago.
of
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, think about that. Yeah, so The Matrix, hey, it stands up, guys. I don't know about the other 2. I did watch the other 2.
No.
You might have your own opinion.
The first
Stands
one
up
is the only one that
generous.
matters.
They never stood up in the first
Exactly.
place.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, getting back to some comfort sci-fi, that's definitely been a help for me. The other thing is I've been trying to get my girlfriend to watch Star Trek for quite some time, and she never has the time. And now I've my devious plan to get her to watch Star Trek is finally unfolding.
Yes. Deep
Does
Space
anyone in
Nine.
this panel not have someone in their lives that they finally got to watch the thing?
Nope.
Yeah.
My kids are complete non-nerds.
Yeah.
My son is big into hip hop. My daughter's a jock. But during pandemic, my daughter finally started watching. Well, I mean, she actually in the last 2 years started to get a little bit of a Marvel thing. But I think that's just a teenage girl in America thing now.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like Tom Holland. Tom Holland broke the nerd dam.
Yeah.
But
Bless him.
she's now binging The Flash, and it's the first superhero TV show she's ever had any interest in.
Oh, that's
Very
Wow.
cool. That's
All right,
really
there's a
cool.
start.
Right?
It's like how good.
Gateway show.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for her to get to my episode. Stick with it, baby. You only got 4 more seasons.
Oh, what a mood. I've been
Dude.
pushing everyone to watch Doctor Who because now that it's on HBO Max, it's a little
right.
bit more
I love it.
accessible.
Is it really?
Yeah, and the issue was at the start of the pandemic, it had just gone off of, I think it was on Prime. So you couldn't even tell people to try it. But it's
Right.
back now.
I didn't know. Now I'm gonna go rewatch.
Yeah,
The
we should do it too.
Eccleston stuff was my first go at Who, and he's my favorite. I know there's a lot of Matt Smith and David Tennant guys, but I love Chris Eccleston.
I
He's
cosplay
good.
a season, one of the Rose outfits from that season, so
Nice.
I have a soft touch for Eccleston.
Awesome.
Nice.
Cool.
Very, very cool. So we're gonna kind of wrap up, come to the end and wrap up the panel. Let's end with a final question, which is, what are some new projects y'all are working on that are either quarantine, pandemic, virtual, online, or if you're doing anything offline? I don't know what that would be, but if you're doing anything offline.
Who do you want to go first?
Anybody just chime in. How about you, Dan?
I am working on my comic book company with the launch of Black Flag. The book made enough money to start second titles. We did a talent search, so we're going through the different people and working with different writers to create some new titles. I was able to purchase my publishing rights for my graphic novel, and we're going to republish it in color, full color. So it's just building a publishing company. That's what I'm all about now.
Congratulations on that. And where can
Thank
people
you.
find out more?
Couch Doodles on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Twitter.
Awesome. Cool. Let's see. Let's go with Sarah next.
Well, as a cosplayer and Patreon girl, I am working on, getting my body back into shape after the quarantine. So that's a big thing for me. But I also have my company, The Adventure Effect, which is traditionally a interactive storytelling and performance arts project. But we also have an Etsy shop. And without, cosplay projects to bring to conventions, we're focusing a little more on that. And we're trying to bring out, more fun products that people can wear that they'll be comfortable in at home, but still feel like, they're kind of living their adventure. So I'm wearing my lit AF Rapunzel shirt right now. And other than that, video game writing work.
Awesome.
That's not
Love
your
it.
real hair?
Sorry?
That's not your real hair?
I've been growing it since the quarantine started. I've maintained the brows, but this I just let go.
Let it go. No, it's a different one.
Close.
Different
And
princess.
you can follow her at that princess girl, which is right there on the
That's
screen.
me.
Done.
Let's see. And Renee, when is your project coming out?
So it's already come out. It's called AR Effects Home Studio. You can find it on our website, arwall.co. You're welcome to go check it out. This is the first prosumer virtual production product in existence, guys. We are bringing that price under $10,000 to make it accessible to hopefully every filmmaker, every YouTuber, influencer that is looking to make some content from home. And just to be clear, this is taking the award-winning technology that we used on Night Flyers, on an NBC Netflix project, similar technology to what Disney has been using on the Star Wars films, giving that to you in your home. And this is what I'm showing off right here. The second thing that I can talk about is this, what I'm displaying right here, which is photogrammetry, digital cloning of physical locations. So in this case, I have this, grungy garage here that is a clone of a physical location, and it's a very high detail clone that I can display right here on my screen. This is the most common thing that's happening in film and television right now, is digital cloning of physical location. Instead of taking your actors to the actual location, you slap it right up here on the screen behind them. You're shooting, and then you can change the scene in 2 seconds. We're at a different location, doing a different scene with different lighting conditions, everything like that. So this is I cannot enunciate how big of a revolution this is in filmmaking that's happening right now. And here's the thing: I don't think it would have happened without the pandemic. To be frank, I don't think it would have happened. The pandemic has pushed this over the edge so that every single studio, every production company that you can imagine, I've had a discussion with in the past 30 days.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Of
Gert,
course.
what do you have coming up that's new? Or what are you going to be working on? Did we lose you, Gert?
Didn't come through. To be honest with us, we're doing what we're already doing. Keep it a safe place for everybody. And that's what works. We're going to do it.
Got it. Continue as normal. And Phil, how about yourself? Can you share anything about what you'll be working on?
Well, obviously, a lot of the projects, because the thing is, the voiceover stuff is just continuing on, but many of the times they don't want us to talk about it. But there are some shows that I've been working on before that are continuing, like DC Superhero Girls and Craig of the Creek work. Those are continuing on, and they're great, great shows. Personally, offline, we're finally coming around on a personal project that we did crowdfunding for, 2 years ago, Goblins Animated. It's an animated project based on my friend Ellipsis Stevens' webcomic called Goblins. And it's a fun D&D set sort of thing, but in the goblins, instead of being like the little monsters you cut the heads off of before you get to the dungeon, they're our heroes.
Awesome.
And we did a really successful crowdfunding campaign, but then hit every conceivable pothole we could have on the road to getting it finished. Picked the wrong animation studio. One of my partners had a aneurysm. I mean, like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But now we're finally getting it together, and we're gonna pitch it out to studios and also deliver our backers an actual animated version of this really, really great, beloved webcomic.
Awesome. Can't wait for that to come out too. So, well, awesome. Thank you so much, all speakers, for hanging out and sharing what they have been doing during pandemic. Not just what you've been doing, but how you've been rocking it, innovating, creating new things, creating new projects, creating a new, media publishing company, Dan, and Renee, getting more clients for your work with all the studio work that you're doing. Sarah creating a show, and Gert creating a place for people to hang out and talk about Marvel and DC and other superhero comics, and Phil with your voice stuff too. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for innovating and rocking it as you all do. Everyone follow all their stuff on Instagram. I think giving shout outs to everyone's Instagram over the course of it, or you can look them up. And thank you for being part of the very first in history, in the 50 plus years of Comic-Con history, of the very first Comic-Con at home by San Diego Comic-Con. So appreciate that. So thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin, and everybody.